Welcome everyone, Natalie here. I'm here to share with you why I do what I do. Why am I a speaker? Why am I a writer? Why do I care about inspiring other people? Well, the answer is that what I care most about is inspiring people to be real, to live authentically, to live their purpose, to do what they came here to do. So I'm going to rewind and kind of tell you where it all started. Well, when I was a young teenager, I used to go on my little tangents on my soapbox about how I would rather live in a cardboard box than to go through the motions that most adults do, which is to go to school and get good grades, to go to college, to get a good job, to keep it for the rest of your life, and then wait until you're 65, retire, statistically die within about 5 years, and usually live in poverty when you get to that point. So I was just so not into it. I was never sold on the American dream. It made me gag thinking about living the status quo. It just didn't do anything for me. But of course, by the time I was done high school, I tried to fit in the box. And I did go to college, although I refused to pick a major. It took me a really long time. I'll get back to that later. I went into my adult life repeating the patterns of my childhood, repeating what everybody in my life did, which is what everybody does. So I know I'm not alone on that. But what happened was the life I was living was not mine. And so by the time I was 24, I would be absolutely exhausted by 7 p.m. I'd get home at the end of the day and I would be running around trying to cook and clean, knowing that if I sat down on the couch, I wasn't going to be able to get back up. And I remember this specific day that I woke up in the morning and my alarm went off and I rolled over to hit snooze probably for the 4th time. And I just remember having this feeling of animosity for the alarm and thinking, if I had to kill someone or do something else extreme so that I never had to have that alarm go off again, I would think about it. And it was not a good place to be. And the triggering point for me to know that I had to change my life was I was sitting at a traffic light in my car and I was just exhausted and I was thinking to myself, I wonder how long this light is. I wonder if it's enough time that I could just sit here with my eyes closed for a minute. And I just felt terrible. And I remember looking around at the other cars and realizing that most of the people driving them were probably twice my age, and none of them looked exhausted. And it was the first time I really realized it wasn't normal to feel that way. And so I went to the doctor and I had a billion tests and they could never find anything wrong, which I was like, man, can't I just have a normal problem? But no, of course, I had to get diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is basically what they tell you you have when you feel like crap and you don't know why. And that was a triggering point for me, and I realized I needed to take control of my life. So the first thing that I did was I retired. I was 24 years old, and by retired I mean I basically quit my job and I've never gone back to working for someone else. And what I did was I decided to convince the place that I worked, where I did marketing and graphic design, to hire me part-time as a contractor. And then I got other people to hire me for graphic design work or marketing consultant. And I used that as a tool as I finished school. It took me 8 years to get my bachelor's degree because I refused to submit to just one thing. But I did finally do it. 2 years later, I graduated. But in that period of time, that 2 years, I spent a lot of time trying to find myself. I changed my eating habits, I changed my sleeping habits, and I caught up on some sleep debt that I'd accumulated over years of trying to fit in that box that doesn't work for me. And I ravenously was eating up self-help books, anything that would give me inspiration for how to change how I felt, how to change what I did, how to change how I lived, and what I ate. And at the end of that 2-year period, I graduated and I felt 70% better. Still exhausted, still not really feeling in alignment, but better. And I opened a nonprofit teen center where I worked with teenagers and their families. And this was something that was part of like the vision I had for my life is I loved teenagers and I love inspiring people to change the way that they think. So this was awesome. And through the process of the 2 years that I ran that center, what I learned from it was that my life and my experiences were from one limited perspective, and that there's a lot of other options for how to live life. And through observing the other families and the way they interacted and the way that they expressed love and the things that they did, they opened my mind and they showed me evidence that a lot of the things that I thought weren't possible in life were. And it was the first time that I allowed myself to dream. And there was a distinct moment where I just decided I'm not going to live a lie anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I literally let go of everything. And by everything, I mean within a 3-month period of time of making the decision, I let go of everything. A 10-year relationship, a house, 2 businesses. I got rid of my dog. I got rid of all my possessions. And I also had created so much momentum of change that even my mom and my sister, who I'm very close to, moved away. And so I was left with nothing of myself. I had no identity anymore. I was not the person that I had been programmed to be. I had let go of that need to be what everybody else had said. This is who you should be. This is what you should do. And, oh, well, you know, this is what everybody else's relationships are like. And, oh, and this is what everybody else's life is like. And then I finally let it all go. And the way I like to describe it is as if, you know, I had been wearing this cloak covering myself, and then I unwound it. And in the end, I was revealed and refreshed, and I felt naked. It's like you're just exposed, you're vulnerable. But at the same time, for the first time in my life, I was authentically me, without all of those labels and limits and shoulds, and without the need to conform. And so for a year, I was sort of on sabbatical while I was developing my coaching business. And it took a lot of emotional processing to make it through that transition, because it's really hard to let go of who you thought you were. And at the end of that year, I started a magazine called Transformation Magazine. And through a lot of other things, it led to my company that I have now, which is Transformation Services, where I have a publishing company, I have Transformation University, which includes inspirational courses. I do events, I do public speaking, I write, and through all of those things, I'm fulfilling my purpose. And it goes back to what I used to think about when I was a young teenager, about living life differently and being me and inspiring other people to do the same. And I can say that at this point in my life, I'm 100% healed. And really what it came down to is the chronic fatigue syndrome was my body's way of telling me that I wasn't being authentically me. And so I want to ask you, is your body telling you anything? Is there some place that you're stuck? Is there some place that you're holding yourself back? And if there is, I invite you to join me on a path of transformation and to start exploring and to open up those doors and to be willing to change your perspective. Because in the end, by embracing who you really are, that's how you're going to reach your potential. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I do what I do. So thank you for joining me. And I look forward to having you in a program or a presentation, or to have you reading some of my articles, or in any way that I can share resources with you. Thank you.